First drafts suck, but writing them doesn't have to. Welcome to How to Write Good. I am your host, Daniel Poppy. You can find out more about me at danielpoppy.com. If it is your first time here, How to Write Good is a writing podcast that seeks to find principles and advice that can be applied across a broad range of writing situations. If you've been here before, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button below, and share. My favorite part of writing is probably the planning phase. One of my other favorite parts of writing is the first draft. Maybe you think I'm mental, maybe you think I've gone a bit crazy, but I wasn't always this way. I'm sure you've experienced those times when you've put pen to paper or fingers to keys, and it feels like an ice pick is going through the center of your brain. And this odd mental anguish seems to accompany the first draft quite often. Now, if you've been writing for quite a while, you know there's no magic bullet to the process, but changing your mindset when you approach certain aspects of writing can take away the pain and actually make those painful parts fun. Seriously. The best advice I've heard for getting through your first draft is only focusing on each single day. And maybe we could rephrase this as one of my favorite adages about how to get things done. It is also a joke. How do you eat an elephant? The answer is one bite at a time. Now, unlike a novel of a rhyming name, I don't believe you write word by word. Instead, I believe the most basic element you should break your writing process down to is the paragraph. If the idea of writing a whole book, or a whole chapter, or a few pages, or even a single page seems daunting and freezes your brain in fear, then don't focus on the entire book during your first draft. Don't even focus on the entire chapter or even the page you're on. Just focus on that single paragraph. And after you've written the first draft of that complete paragraph, forget it and move to the next paragraph. Repeat the process again until you've gotten to the allotted time, and then you can stop for the day. And my advice for the next day is similar. Some people might be tempted to go back and read what they wrote before, but don't do it, because I know, every single writer knows, and you know too, there's a little gremlin in your mind that doesn't know how to not be critical and will start to pick apart that first draft. Just as you forgot the previous paragraph as you wrote it, forget what you wrote yesterday. Don't worry about it. Don't look back at it. Just focus on what you're writing today. Because I have yet to meet a writer who can look over a first draft that is uncompleted and stop himself from throwing it in the garbage. If you are worried that your writing is bad, don't worry, because it is. Your job at this point is not to criticize or correct or edit or revise or even proofread. Your job is to get that first draft written. And the way in which a person thinks is much different when writing a first draft than it is when they are revising. The goal during your first draft is to stay in that odd floating creative state that makes it seem like magic is flowing from your fingers. Now, when we writers look back at our first drafts, we don't think magic is flowing from our fingers. We think maybe there's something else flowing from our fingers. But the odd thing about magic is it doesn't look the way you think it's going to look. And the process of creating something as close to magic as we have in the real world isn't something like waving a wand in the air and saying specific words. It isn't lightning from the fingertips. The creation of this magic in the real world oftentimes comes about because of a long, arduous process. And in the case of writers, we are often banging our hands against the walls and crying to heaven in pain at how hard the process is. For those of you who are doing this, it is not the process at fault, but you. because I think you're misunderstanding the process. To make the point clearer, how many wood carvers do you think get angry when they carve out the basic shape of what they are going to make? How many marble sculptors feel that ice pick of frustration go through their brains when they have yet to give their sculpture features? The point I'm trying to make is that every piece of art has a raw process. If your first draft doesn't sound good, is messy, doesn't look good, things are out of place, that's okay. Your first draft does not determine how good of a writer you are. Your final draft is what determines how good of a writer you are. So this is why I say you should forget about the last day and even the last paragraph you've written if you need to. You may come to a day when you can look at your own first draft and not cringe, but for most of us writers, that growth won't happen overnight. So don't worry. Have fun with the first draft. Try different things. Be indulgent. And if it doesn't work, when you come back to edit, you can always fix it, change it, polish it, and get it as close to the book you always imagined. If you enjoyed this, you're probably wondering how you can support me. Well, you can actually do two simple things. Follow the first link below to grab a copy of my book, and then follow the second link and sign up for my newsletter. It's that simple. Those two things will mean the world to me and give me more time to write books and create content for you. As always, my name is Daniel Poppy, and this is How to Write Good.